So we see this sand dune, right? And we're at the base of the sand dune. And we start climbing to the top. And I look over and I see this absolutely savage beast approaching me and my brother. And upon a closer look, I realize that it's a kangaroo. A kangaroo, you know? It's like what? And it's got really short hair, like the hair on the neck of a horse. Okay. And probably about 5.5 feet tall, maybe 5 feet. It's about level with me. Okay. And I look at this animal, and this thing is vicious. It's got like, its eyes are like this, like legit, like popping out of its skull. It's got like some spittle is dripping from its mouth. And it's gray in color. Very strong animal. You can tell it's very muscular, and if it gets a hold of us, it's gonna kill us. The kangaroo has big, sharp teeth, probably about that long. The best way I can describe it is it's almost as if it kind of resembles a dog's head, like a Doberman, perhaps. And I can't recall if it was making noise or not. I don't think it was. Maybe just growling. I would imagine it was probably growling. So this thing starts running towards myself. And my first thought is, I have to disable this animal. I have to disable this animal, because if it gets a hold of me, it's going to kill me. I don't know if you've ever had like a mean dog running towards you. I actually haven't, somehow. But I would imagine that the feeling would be the same. Like, you don't really want to kill the animal, or necessarily, hurt the animal, but you gotta do what you gotta do to keep yourself unharmed, right? So I look down, and I grab this piece of a branch, or maybe it was a small log about this big in diameter, about as long as a cardboard poster tube, right? So before I have a chance to pick up this log that I'm going to use to try to defend myself and my brother, I extend my arm like this and kind of trying to push the kangaroo's face like this, you know? And when I do that, one of my hand slips in the mouth of the kangaroo, and as you can imagine, the sharp teeth sank into my hand, and I was able to pull it away quickly, though, fortunately. So I look down, yeah, there's blood coming out of my hand. So I grab, with my right hand, I grab the log that's on the ground, laying in the sand, and then I hear my brother say, "Let's do it." So I'm like, alright. So I take this thing and I just swing this log as hard as I can, and I hit the kangaroo in the head, like this. And immediately when that happened, like, it just kind of froze and stood there, kind of motionless. It was as if it was in a daze. And I remember thinking, like, okay, it's not moving towards us anymore. I think we're going to be okay. But I think we proceeded to continue to unnecessarily hit the animal on the head. And I don't really understand why we did that, but we did. And beyond self-defense, like, you've heard the term beating a dead horse. Well, you know, that applies here. There's no point in doing that. So I guess it was just because the whole ordeal was so sudden and traumatizing. We wanted to make sure that the animal was dispatched completely, so that we didn't run the risk of being killed by this animal. Okay. So I'm hitting this thing on the head. So is my brother. It's laying there. It's looking like it's probably completely a non-threat to us anymore. And the next thing I remember, the neck from here down, probably about 2 to 3 feet of the segment of its spine became exposed, and the rest of the body kind of just disappeared and wasn't there anymore. And it turned to a chalky white. It turned to just the skull, but the eyes were like, they were still like popping out, and its face was still real mad looking, Just a really unpleasant sight. Just not the kind of thing you want to be thinking about at 4 in the morning and waking up upon, and thinking about that. But, nonetheless, it happened. So, its face, the flesh just kind of vanishes, and it turns all to a chalky white bone. The same with that segment of the spine. And the last thing I remember, I'm seeing the head of this animal and its spine just kind of floating in the air there. And that's where I woke up. And I was sweating very badly. My head was kind of sweating, and I was like kind of, panting a little bit. And that kind of finishes up the summary of that dream. Disclaimer though, I am very against harming animals, unless you are a hunter or a fisherman and you intend to eat the animal. That's scenario number 1, where I think it's okay to use lethal force against an animal. If you want to eat it, that's okay, I think, as long as you're doing so in a humane fashion. When you go to kill the animal, make it quick, and don't let the animal suffer. Number 2, second scenario, would be if your life is endangered by an animal. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're being stupid and putting yourself in the way of an animal. Like if you go see a crocodile and you're like, well, hell, I'm going to go swim with that crocodile, that's stupid. So at that point, the animal's kind of in the right if it decides to eat you. I'm talking about you going for a run, on a summer evening, and a very mad dog starts running at you, with its teeth showing, a little bit of foam in the mouth, it's running at you. It's going to kill you if it gets you. At that point, you can use some force against that animal. Do what you need to do to protect yourself. But those are pretty much the 2 scenarios where I'd say if you're going to hurt an animal, it's justified. But the reason I brought these up was because I really like kangaroos. So it was a really upsetting dream to wake up to. And this kangaroo was no ordinary kangaroo. This was a carnivorous kangaroo, which apparently used to be a thing back in the Ice Age or whatever you want to call it. Apparently they found some fossils of kangaroos that have big teeth, like canine teeth, which is a terrifying thought. I'm glad humans weren't around then or whatever, but yeah, I'm gonna rate the dream. I would give it probably an 8.7 because it was so realistic. I gotta give it credit for that, you know. And I'm kind of proud of my brain for being able to fabricate something that's that complex and realistic. Because I woke up and I was kind of like, I was in this bed, you know, and I woke up and I'm like, you know, almost like feeling for sand around me. So, yeah. I hated it, though. It was a really, really disturbing dream, actually. So, I hated it, but I have to give it an 8.7 because it was so raw, you know. It was a very rich, realistic dream. If I close my eyes, I don't really want to for that long because I can still see that grotesque face on that carnivorous kangaroo. So yeah, weird dream. Thanks for watching.